Now, I've been asking for many weeks, what do Tottenham do? Do you defend competently and counter? Do you press? Do you keep possession? Because they haven't been able to do any of those things. Yeah. But in this game, they actually demonstrated all of those things. Yeah. And I think that was a really big turning point. Now, obviously, we know Conte is out at the moment due to illness, and the assistant manager steps in. I don't know who did the tactics, etc. But there was a clear difference in Tottenham's in terms of their organisation and their structure. And also, Eric Dyer, really good performance. And actually, I don't know why this wasn't tried earlier on. It's actually something we've never spoken about. And I know I regretted it when I was watching it. I was like, how comes we haven't spoken about Tottenham kind of moving that central defensive player in their three and moving him into holding midfield and giving that extra option in midfield so they're not overran? And then if you are bypassed, then he can just slot straight back into that back three.
And yeah, I'm with you. It's annoying because we've actually seen it with David Luiz and Conte. We've actually seen that very thing happen. He was a good ball playing centre-back dives, had experience in midfield. So Luiz, Dyer stepping in, it made sense. You're right. I can't believe we haven't picked it up. But you're right to illustrate the press, and it comes from the goal. And it's only right we recreated it. Harry Kane's 267th, I believe. That beats Jimmy Greaves' record. But it all comes from the team and the press. And what I really like about it, we can criticise City, and we will later.
More than you can believe.
More than you can believe. But it's more just the little traps they've set themselves and the little sort of man marking. You can even actually include Bentancur in that. You can look at the fact that Son's ready to pounce. You can look at Dyer. You can look at the fact that Højbjerg's keeping an eye there on Lewis. Kulusevski's got an eye on Kane. And as this progresses and Alvarez plays that ball back, the first thing I think Rodri does wrong, he lures the press in because he kind of just lets it run across his body. He's waiting for the pass. So once he does that, you're thinking...
Now it's suffocation mode.
And you're thinking, go to Walker. Okay, maybe Kane's there. Go to Edison. Would you try the switch to Ake? Probably not. You back your left foot.
Maybe it's some sort of out ball just to get them. But Manchester City are like so obsessed with playing.
Exactly.
They want to play in every situation. So they're always going to invite this.
Højbjerg reads it. Young Lewis has come into midfield, the inverted role. Again, we'll talk about City's shape in a second. Mahrez and Grealish are really high and wide. So they're waiting for City to play out so that they can go then stretch the pitch and make it really difficult for them. But Højbjerg, I think, does so well. By the way, my man of the match as well. Rolls it into Kane. And it's a really brilliant finish. But it's just like, it's calamitous from City. But it's really good from Tottenham just to set the traps. And just at this very moment, they sensed it. And Bentancur actually then does well to kind of hold his run and let Højbjerg drive forward. He goes, right, you've got this, off you go. And it's a lovely touch. Rides the challenge from Lewis, rolls into Kane. Good goal.
Højbjerg and Bentancur, and these are very good players. Bentancur coming back into his team has been huge. You could really see that they missed his presence, especially in the first phase when they're building up. He's so press resistant. He's so good at carrying the ball. They really, really missed him when he was out. But they're all very good players. The only issue with Tottenham over the season has been that they're all the same, or they're all very similar. And there hasn't been, it's not to say any of them are awful. They're actually all, when they're all at their best, even contributing with goals, Højbjerg, Bentancur, they've all actually contributed. But it's just the fact that there's no other profile in there. When the going gets tough and you need something different, they're not able to give you that.
They're sort of the perfect side to play City in terms of...
exactly.
They've got real counter-attacking threat, they've got energy in midfield, bundles of it as well.
And 5 wins in a row at home against City as well.
That's right.
No goals conceded.
That's
and
true.
We can see why, isn't it?
They've even got wins at the Etihad over the years. And this is a side that, I mean, look how positive that is. Look how near they all are. They could easily be sitting off. That was the disappointment, I think, for Tottenham in the North London derby. They let Arsenal have the ball. Granted, I actually think Arsenal this season have played out the back better than Man City. So maybe they sense that vulnerability in City, Tottenham. But I just think they executed it really well. If we look at the two shapes, because Man City, I thought, it's a 4-4-2 on paper, but it looked kind of anything but. It was sort of Haaland up top, Alvarez and Bernardo sort of either side with Rodri, Mahrez and Grealish really high up the pitch, and then Walker and Lewis were kind of the two either side of Rodri, but then sometimes it would become a 3 and Rodri would come across. I mean, it felt like a total identity crisis from a Man City perspective. Alvarez in that pocket feels a weird one.
Yeah, it's very
De Bruyne is made for it. I don't really know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, he dropped De Bruyne to the bench. I don't actually get on his back for that, purely because I've been watching Manchester City and De Bruyne has not been great. And even when he's brought De Bruyne and Haaland on in games like Southampton, they haven't been able to conjure up anything. So I do believe that there's a lot of players, maybe outside of Mahrez since the turn of the year. Rico Lewis has been, a new young player to come into the team, and he's obviously been given a lot of responsibility. Half the fact that he's a really, really good footballer, but secondly also Cancelo as well. We know there's been issues there, he's been loaned out. But I do believe that Manchester City, as we keep saying, look incredibly predictable, and they don't have any support for their wingers. There's nobody making any overlapping runs. There's no underlapping run from any fullback. So you're relying upon your Bernardo Silvas and your Alvarez's. Now, Alvarez, when I foresaw him coming into this team, it was either going to be up front, which is difficult, I know, because Haaland is up there, or coming off the flank as like a Jesus type player to make those runs and just purely looking to make runs off of Haaland, similar to how Foden was doing at the start of the season when Foden was in brilliant form. But to play him in that role there, I just don't get it. I personally just don't understand it. Now, maybe it's, I don't know, for the press, that's the only kind of thing I could maybe think of. Maybe it's, because when De Bruyne plays there, he basically presses with Haaland in a front two, and they go into a two-man press, because we know Haaland's not as intense with his pressing as Jesus or Sterling or all these guys. So that's kind of what it becomes. But at the same time, I just feel like Man City at the moment, they've gone really, really far away from what made them their best, and now this is almost like a transition, but I don't know what they're actually trying to transition into, because they're just losing all of their threats. Game in, game out, I keep watching them. They're actually becoming very boring to watch. Really and Haaland had no shots in this game, not a single shot. I think opposition touches in the box was something like one, and something like that. It was honestly, it was lackluster to say the least, man. It was really poor.
They were highlighting it well on Sky, the fact that Haaland, he does make runs. He is still,
but they don't spot them.
They don't spot them at all. But at the same time, you've got Mahrez can pick a pass. You've got Grealish. You've got Bernardo Silva. Even Rodri can. Even without De Bruyne on the pitch, they have plenty of talent to try and unlock Haaland. So I sort of understand having this many sort of creative outlets in the team. If when Haaland's making those kind of runs, you're at least trying to play the pass. But Haaland and those runs seem to go against everything that Pep Guardiola is about, which is total control. So it's a really strange one. And people didn't like it when we said 2 months ago, and it was 2 months ago, are City compromising too much on who they were for Erling Haaland? And people said, oh, you're ridiculous. Look at the goals he's scoring. Look at everything they're doing.
I remember the comments. They were going after you.
I'll never forget them. But Haaland is doing his job. Let's not move away from that. He's doing his job.
He's not going to change he's not going to become Harry Kane.
No.
That's not his remit. That's not his profile. He is going to make those runs in behind. He's going to be in the box. He's going to be a poacher. Everybody else is going to have to cater to that in terms of being more direct. Now, and then when they are more direct with De Bruyne, sometimes if it doesn't work, then they look predictable. And as long as you actually stop that ball in and you deal with Haaland in the box, which is not easy, but Liverpool have shown at Anfield this season they could do it, and other teams as well. Chelsea, I think he didn't score at Stamford Bridge. He was kind of struggling there in the league game. Tottenham now in this game as well.
The Emirates coming
The Emirates as well. All of the big games away, actually, it's been quite a struggle for Haaland this season. It's more been like the Wolves and the the Aston Villas, etc. He's kind of been taking advantage of those teams.
He'll 100% score against Arsenal now that we've said all this. But you're right, he has struggled in games, but I think because City haven't had the kind of control they normally would as well. And we know that he's not just a poacher. He's powerful. He can run in behind, and all that. But I think he does feed on that service, and he will be then. He will put it in the back of the net. But at the moment, everything around him isn't right at City. But you have segued really nicely into a Kane, Haaland debate. Now I know this looks very scary, everyone. Look at all these numbers.
Wow.
It's a lot. But I've done it on purpose. I really want to make a point. So using FBref, I had a little look at per 90 stats for a lot of things. Premier League 22-23, Kane versus Haaland. On either side of the dash is Kane, Haaland's numbers. Now, apart from goals, shots per 90, and shots on target percentage, where Haaland comes out on top, Kane comes out on top of every single stat here. Pass completion per 90, progressive passes per 90, progressive passing distance, completed medium passes. Let's move ahead to key passes, pass in the final third, switches, crosses per 90, progressive passes received as well, shot creating actions, progressive carries, take-ons attempted, fouls drawn, ball recoveries, tackles, aerials won, touches per 90. Blows them away.
We know who the better footballer is. That's for sure. We know who offers more outside of the box. That's for sure. Chance creation, etc. Now, this is simple for me because Harry Kane has been given a lot of stick after the World Cup, obviously for the penalties, etc. We know as a big game player, there's question marks over can he handle the pressure. But there should never be any questions about his record in this league. Year in, year out, 17, 18, 20, 25 goals, whatever have you will. And even in that off-season where he wanted to go to Manchester City and at the start of the campaign he was very, very poor and he looked like his head had been gone, he still managed to tally up about 17 goals by the end of that season. And that's in a Tottenham team that don't create a lot of chances, that play in a very, most of the time, negative style with Jose Mourinho, Conte, Nuno.
Exactly.
And he's usually having to exceed his XG. Now, Haaland is an incredible finisher and he's going to probably break the record, I'm sure, although he's starting to slow down a little bit since the turn of the year. But you would not ask Haaland to try and do what Kane does because he would never be able to get it done. It's just not, you know, in terms of the two footballers, they're poles apart.
And the thing is, I understand Haaland's banging in loads of goals, but Kane's got 17 in a team that look as, all up till that City game, look as boring as anything in the league. And he's still scoring goals. So, you know, you wonder then what Kane would bring. Kane is the 9 that Guardiola, I think, really wants in that City team. There's a reason they chased him for so long. Now, Haaland is an unreal goal machine.
That was the preference, you feel?
I think so, personally. A, they were willing to go up to 100 million to sign him. But B, look at everything he does from his hold-up play to pass. But you just got to.
They don't have to compromise their game as much.
I don't think they would have had to compromise their game as much. I still think they would have wanted pace around him. I don't think Kane's the solution for Man City.
No.
But I just think he was more the number 9 that would have continued basically all the good work they'd done. And with a bit of pace around him, you know, the wingers, and he still can get in behind Kane as well. I think he'd have been unbelievable for them. I think he would be on near 25 goals if he were playing in this City team as well. But two phenomenal strikers, so we'll leave it to you. Who is the better one, Kane or Haaland? Are you looking purely at the goals, or are you looking at everything else? Maybe you divide it between goal scorer and footballer. Or if someone were to say Haaland's still a better goal scorer,
but
that's fair enough.
Kane now has, what is it, 200 goals in for one club? Well,
so the Greaves record is 267, I believe he's got.
267, but then obviously he's chasing the all-time Premier League record as well.
Yeah, I don't know how far he is off that.
So
I mean, unbelievable.
He's almost catching up to Wayne Rooney. I think it's 9 goals away from Wayne Rooney. So even as a goal scorer, I mean, Haaland is probably going to eclipse every record in world football in terms of goal scoring, but he's still got to do it. Kane's obviously already shown that he's a brilliant goal scorer year in, year out.
Yeah.